what are some common places that sugar is hiding in food? So these are a lot of the mistakes that we made early on. Clients, friends of ours make over and over again. So number one is sugar-free sweetener packets.
Right.
These are things like you're at the coffee shop, you just grab, you see stevia, you're like, oh great, they have, erythritol or monk fruit. So you grab it, you put it in your coffee, and you go on with your day. Well, if you take a moment to flip that packet over and look at the ingredient list, you may be surprised to see, let's just pick on stevia, right? So stevia in the raw is one of them that I know has this problem. It says stevia, dextrose, sugar. Or stevia, maltodextrin. Maltodextrin is going to spike blood sugar. So why do they do this? Well, because stevia is 1 to 300 times sweeter than sugar, the amount of stevia that needs to be in that packet is so small the packet would feel empty.
Right. Or you wouldn't be able to get it out because it would just be so little.
So they mix it with something. And then labeling regulations in the United States just requires that packet to be under 5 calories. So then you think about your friend or yourself who uses 6 of those packets. Mm-hmm. You're getting a lot of unintended sugar that you didn't mean to get. So that's probably one of the biggest things. Something that was probably the last thing we learned, just because we drink coffee black, so we don't look at those packets.
Right.
So just be aware of that, and that's true in all different sugar-free packets. So just flip it over and read the label.
So the next place you're going to find it, you probably already know it's there, but you're probably not thinking about it, is condiments. So ketchup, barbecue sauce, salad dressings, mayonnaise, sweet mustard, nut butters, and salt packets, interestingly enough. So it's not that we don't know it's there, it's that condiments are so easy to over-consume because we typically don't think about serving sizes. And even if we do, we're like, that's not enough. Like, some people eat ketchup by the tablespoonful, on a single fry, or they get, cheaper mayo products that have sugar in them. Barbecue sauce is one of those things that is really hard to replace on a keto diet. Fortunately, there's a few companies that are starting to come out with some really good ones. Primal Kitchens has a pretty good barbecue sauce, and we just heard that Sweet Baby Ray's is actually coming out with a ketogenic certified, not just keto friendly, ketogenic certified barbecue sauce. So if you like Sweet Baby Ray's, look out for that somewhere soon. I know it's in the South. You can probably get it out of Publix right now.
So another place to look for hidden sugars is in sauces and syrups, especially those labeled sugar-free or keto-friendly. If they've got vegetable glycerin in those, even some of the sweeteners like stevia drops or monk fruit drops, they've started to add vegetable glycerin into those. And so if you're using a lot of them and having some issues, digestive discomfort, things like that, be cautious of those things and sugar, sweet tasting things like vegetable glycerin. It's used because it's a little bit sweet itself, and it's kind of an emulsifier, a way to carry a very concentrated thing like stevia or monk fruit drops. And we see it in a lot of syrups and products like that.
So I mentioned salt, and you're probably like, salt? What are you talking about? So when I was doing a longer fast, I was doing a 17-day fast, about halfway through I was starting to just open up a salt packet and eat the salt. And I noticed the first time I picked up a particular salt packet that it was sweet, and I could taste it, and I couldn't figure out. I was like, this is salt. Why am I tasting sweet? And so I looked on the back of the package, and it said salt, dextrose. I was like, holy crap, there's dextrose in this salt packet. And so most of the time you can't taste it because I was very in tune to taste at that point. And so they use dextrose as a way to keep the salt from sticking together.
Anti-caking agent, yeah.
Right, so if you're out at a restaurant and you're using salt packets, just be aware that some of them will have dextrose in them. Some of them don't, but the larger ones probably will. The more salt is in the packet, the more likely it is that there's dextrose in there with it.
So next, watch out for processed meats. Bacon, sausage, brats, any kind of patty, anything that's been sauced, marinated, even cold cuts. Check your ingredients list. If sugar comes very early on that ingredients list, that's a warning sign. Avoid things that are labeled like maple, or glazed. Those are warning signs that there's quite a bit of sugar in that product. Also look out for gluten hiding in processed meats. I follow a gluten-free keto diet. I don't believe that gluten has a place in a keto diet. And I've learned that I'm sensitive to it. And I learned that I'm sensitive to it by omitting it for a year and then accidentally having some sausage that had gluten in it and wondering why the heck my bowels were protesting. Right? So just if you follow a gluten-free keto diet, just be aware of that gluten can also be hiding in processed meats. A lot of times they actually, and in hamburgers at restaurants. So at a nicer restaurant, they might use, basically what they do to help make your burgers moist is they take real cheap white bread and they mush it up with milk and egg. I think it's like a tapenade.
Yeah, a tapenade.
Yeah, and they mix that into the hamburger. So do make sure when you go to a restaurant that you designate you want your meal to be gluten-free. That's a way to avoid
totally
accidentally getting, like you think you order a hamburger and you think it's fine. Well, you don't know that they put this tapenade in the hamburger to make it moist, and so now you're eating 20, 30 carbs in a hamburger of all things.
Right.
That you didn't expect to be there. So that's a tip.
And then also dairy-free products. So we're thinking, like things like dairy-free cheese.
Cheese, right? So the Daiya cheese. Vegan cheeses. A lot of times those are carbohydrate-based or cashew-based, and cashews carry quite a few carbs with them.
Right. And then anything labeled fat-free or light, you want to be a little bit suspicious of, probably a lot suspicious of, because we all know that during the fat-free era is when a lot of these companies just started shoveling sugar into every product they could, because they could put fat-free on the label, and that was all they cared about. And that's what the consumer cared about at that time.
Right, and they took the fat out, so they took the flavor out, and they had to put something back in.
Salt and sugar.
So milk, a lot of people are surprised that we don't drink milk on keto, and that's because milk contains a natural sugar, lactose.
Yep.
So if you look at a gallon of whole milk, you're going to see carbohydrates in a glass. So on keto, we tend to go towards like heavy cream. So we make our own at-home milk. We use a little bit of heavy cream and mix that with water.
Yeah, and it ends up tasting just a little bit sweet too, which is kind of a nice treat if that's something you're interested in.
So if you use milk in your coffee and you're like, what am I going to do? Try a teaspoon of heavy cream. Just a teaspoon of heavy cream should be equivalent to maybe a tablespoon or two of milk.
Yep. So processed keto labeled foods often contain sugar substitutes like maltitol, IMOs, inulin, and this is why we don't recommend things like Slim Fast Keto line. If you look at the Slim Fast Keto line, you will see just a litany of
no-no ingredients.
And it's highly, highly processed, which we try and stay away from, highly ultra-processed foods as we can. Not to say that we don't ever eat keto products that we buy from the store, but Slim Fast
it's not a dietary staple.
Slim Fast is way on the wrong side of the spectrum.
Yeah. So I hope that these examples helped you kind of think about different products that you eat, and maybe you're going to go take a look at some labels after we finish up.